And you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watch were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof to the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
And now, boys and girls, let me hear you recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Since I was a small boy, 2 states have been added to our country, and 2 words have been added to the Pledge of Allegiance: under God. Wouldn't it be a pity if someone said that is a prayer and that would be eliminated from schools too?
Happy hump day, everyone. I'm back in the saddle. The saddle I've been comfortable in for quite a few moments. Yeah, I decided to hit it up this way, folks. I'm just going to relax a little bit during this show. It's a part 2-er, by the way. But as always, I try to let you know I pledge allegiance to the Constitution of the United States of America and to the republic for which the flag stands, one nation under Almighty God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I've got to tell you, folks, we're in a bad, bad way. I used this last week. It was part of a part 1, a part 2 type situation, but this is the quote again. A dictator wants the same thing as a people: to decide everything himself. We're not seeing that right now, blatantly seeing it with this administration, with the tearing and shredding up of the Constitution. I don't know when we're going to see it. I really don't. Something I haven't done in a while either was the movie pick. My movie pick this week, of course, is Lucy, starring Morgan Freeman. It's an oldie but goodie. It's where a drug cartel wants to import some very bad drugs, new drugs, synthetic chemicals, into the population of the world. And this particular drug, believe it or not, when it's released in the body itself, such as with this woman in particular, she just becomes this machine, this internet, basically, sensation herself. And at the end, she ends up being basically one of those little thumb drives that Morgan Freeman, as a scientist, is going to utilize for the better of social media, for the better of the internet, for the better of the world. But, you know, this is not a fiction that we're living in. We're actually living in the reality of. And the reality is simply this. We have learned to not base a person's character as the number one priority, but rather their sensitivities. Personally, I've never been politically correct. I don't intend to ever be politically correct, and I refuse to be politically correct. If anyone out there thinks that that's wrong, then so be it. But, you know, people are conditioned also to think like this. They see something, they don't say anything. They see something, they don't get involved. They see something and they turn a blind eye. And that's sad because that's where we're at today. And then we have a few people that will do things like murmur. They say things under their breath. People catch it, not exactly sure what it is that the person's upset about or what's bothering them. But that person's not being, of course, honest to those around them either, nor to themselves. People like myself, I have a tendency to just blurt out. It's unfiltered. I say what's on my mind. I say what's out there at that moment. And that's, to me, a good thing. At least you know where I'm coming from. No curves, no balls, only strikes. That's right. No curves and no balls, just strikes. So where am I going with this? Well, I'm going to go to the point of last week. I said to you, I hadn't seen Tucker Carlson for a while. So what did I decide to do? I decided to consider bringing Tucker back for this one. And why do I want to bring this to you? Because anyone else in America, and you're going to be hearing this throughout this, I'm sure, and throughout the news, people have done serious years in prison, 3 years in prison for some of these charges that this individual Hunter Biden, that is, I'm speaking of where he actually, I'm trying to find it now. I can't find it. I had it up here just a moment ago. Oh, let's try this. Where Hunter Biden broke the law with guns, drugs, prostitutes, and even Burmesa. And what are we doing? What are we doing about this? Well, we're not really doing much at all. We're not doing what we should. He should have been placed in jail. I know. It's like, oh, you've got it out for Hunter Biden. No, Hunter Biden broke the law. And in breaking the law, he should be held accountable. I'm trying to get this now, folks. I can't believe I've lost it. It was up there earlier. But, you know, you're looking at Hunter Biden getting away literally with breaking the law. His alimony was dropped down from $20,000 a month to $5,000 a month. I guess they realize he really doesn't have a job. He's only, using on people's money. I can't. Maybe try this. No. Anyway, I can't seem to get this going. This is really, really bothering me. I'm not the best on a computer, folks. But, here we go. He did.
Hey, it's Tucker Carlson. This spring, word began to circulate in Washington that the House Oversight Committee, under its new chairman, Congressman Jamie Comer, had discovered criminal behavior after reviewing thousands of pages of the Biden family's bank records. Now, publicly, to the extent they responded at all, the White House dismissed the investigation as, of course, politically motivated. In any case, irrelevant. Hunter Biden was an adult, so his business dealings had nothing at all to do with his father, in this case, the President of the United States. But in private, everybody understood it wasn't quite that simple. There has long been overwhelming evidence that Joe and Hunter Biden's financial lives are not separate at all, but deeply intertwined. On Hunter Biden's laptop, there's a suggestion that the two of them even at one point shared a bank account. And of course, Hunter Biden wrote himself that he kicked back cash from his foreign business deals to his father. He wrote that bitterly. So the Oversight Committee's investigation was potentially a disaster for the White House, a scandal, possibly even the prelude to criminal charges. So in order to get ahead of all of that, Joe Biden's handlers did the one thing they could do. They set up an MSNBC interview to preemptively whitewash whatever Jamie Comer might find. Here's the results of that. This aired on May 5th.
Sir, there is something personal that's affecting you. Your son, while there's no ties to you, could be charged by your Department of Justice. How will that impact your presidency?
First of all, my son's done nothing wrong. I trust him. I have faith in him. and it impacts my presidency by making me feel proud of him.
Okay, time for the master class for free. You can audit it. Here it goes. Sir, showing appropriate respect, says the shill, there is something personal that's affecting you. Note the wording. Personal, not of public concern, nothing law enforcement might be interested in, but personal, a sad family tragedy. That's the framing. And then this, a sentence choreographed to the letter. Your son, while there's no ties to you, could be charged by your Department of Justice. Got that? Well, there's no tie to you. So the answer is, in fact, in the question. Whatever Hunter Biden goes down for, and we know he is going to be charged because MSNBC said so. But when that happens, that's Hunter's problem. It's got nothing to do with Joe Biden. Rest easy, America. 5 days later, the Oversight Committee released its findings, and they were, in fact, devastating. Quote, bank records show the Biden family, their business associates, and their companies, their many companies, received over $10 million from foreign nationals and their related companies, the committee wrote. Investigators had, quote, identified payments to Biden family members from foreign companies while Joe Biden served as vice president and after he left public office. So actually there was something there. It was a scandal. Racketeering, money laundering, wire fraud, those are some of the crimes the Bidens seem to have committed, in addition, of course, to selling out the United States for cash. So what would happen to them? Well, Donald Trump had an idea, quote, they'll hit Hunter with something small to make their strike on me look fair. Trump wrote that about 2 weeks ago, and it turned out those were prescient words. This morning, Hunter Biden pleaded guilty to pretty much nothing. Biden pled to 2 misdemeanor tax evasion charges, then entered a diversion on a federal gun charge. That's it. As far as Merrick Garland's Justice Department is concerned, Hunter Biden is done. There was no pre-dawn raid carried live simultaneously on CNN. There was no perp walk, no handcuffs, no press conference. Above all, there was no felony. Hunter Biden, who broke federal gun laws, can still carry a gun. It's like it all never happened. In fact, the Justice Department just baptized Hunter Biden, a lifetime of sins washed away in an instant. It was a secular miracle. Most miraculous of all, Hunter Biden somehow escaped a FARA charge. FARA is the Foreign Agent Registration Act, and it is exactly what its name suggests. Under federal law, if you are acting as an agent of a foreign nation in Washington, you are required to register with our government to let everybody know. Well, for decades, pretty much nobody in Washington did register under FARA, and precisely no one was ever prosecuted for it. No one. But starting several years ago, the Justice Department began sending people to prison on FARA violations. The official explanation was, we're cracking down on foreign influence in Washington. And of course, privately, everyone in Washington laughed. They knew that was absurd. In fact, it's the opposite of the truth. Foreign powers have never had more power in Washington. Their agents are everywhere, in every federal agency and throughout business, down to and including in executive positions at various social media companies. The Biden administration knows all of this, and it's not a problem. In fact, it's their policy. From the administration's perspective, the concerns and the demands of, say, the Chinese government, or particularly the Ukrainian government, are far more important than the needs of American voters. We're cracking down on foreign influence. Please. The point, the only point of enforcing FARA after decades of ignoring it, is to harass and imprison high-profile political opponents. Trump donor Elliot Broidy pled to a FARA violation a few years ago. So did Trump campaign manager, famously Paul Manafort. He went to prison. Last year, the DOJ went after Trump confidant Steve Wynn under FARA. But in the end, the Biden administration overreached so comically that the whole thing was thrown out by a judge. But they tried. So as long as they're trying, if it was a fair system, Hunter Biden would be first on the list of those next to be charged with a FARA violation. In fact, many of them. Hunter Biden was a foreign agent. He never registered as one. But for years, that's exactly what he was. He sold access to his father and other lawmakers to the Chinese and the Ukrainians and countries throughout the world. There's no debate about that. The FBI has known about it for years. For years, they've had possession of Hunter Biden's laptop. But they didn't charge him for it today. They never will. Why? Well, you know the answer. Hunter Biden has good genes. A more interesting question, though, which is another question the feds will never consider, is, what does Hunter Biden do for a living now? This is a man with no obvious job and, of course, zero skills. He spent midlife smoking crack. Yet somehow he's managed to live pretty well despite rising inflation. He's been living in big houses in the costliest residential neighborhoods in the world. He's been paying his stripper baby mama 20 grand a month in child support. And he has retained a team of the most expensive lawyers in the country who spend quite a bit of time sending threatening letters to anyone who asks questions about how they're being paid. We can confirm that firsthand. So again, what does Hunter Biden do for work? That's a fair question. And tonight we have the answer. For years, Hunter Biden was an influence peddler. Now, Hunter Biden is a self-actualizer. He self-actualizes for a living. He gets in touch with himself, his feelings, and he follows his muse. Here he is explaining his new vocation in a 2019 ABC News interview.
This is new.
Yeah.
Studio.
Yeah.
But now he's opening the doors to a place never captured by a paparazzi's lens, his refuge, an art studio where he finds solace in painting.
What's the goal eventually?
No goal. That's the perfect part about it. It's just, it literally keeps me sane.
His refuge, far from the paparazzi's lens. In other words, we're not the paparazzi, we're ABC News. What's the goal of this? Your refuge. There's no goal, he says, grinning with those fake teeth. It just keeps me sane. But actually, there was a goal. And if you didn't know what a virtuous person Hunter Biden was, you might think it looked a lot like money laundering. 2 years after that interview, Hunter Biden was selling prints of his art. And to be clear, just the prints, not the, quote, art itself, but effectively photocopies of it for $75,000 a pop. Apparently, Hunter Biden moved 5 of these repros in just days. That's $375,000 in less than a week for signing copies of your fake art. As for the paintings themselves, childish self-indulgent blots, those sold for $500,000 a piece. So the question is, who bought them and why? It'd be interesting to know. There's a story there for sure, but of course we have no right to know. There's no public policy implication. It's not like Hunter Biden's finances have anything to do with his father's finances. Meanwhile, once his father did become president, corporate publisher Simon & Schuster lined up as well to pay Hunter Biden's bills. According to news reports, Simon & Schuster gave Hunter Biden millions of dollars for his highly selective account of his wholly unaccomplished life. And then the publisher lined up brainless celebrity endorsers like Dave Eggers and Stephen King to promote it. King, who apparently will say anything if it helps the party, called Hunter Biden's silly manuscript a, quote, harrowing and compulsively readable memoir. And then Stephen King described Hunter Biden himself as beautiful. Needless to say, the book sold miserably, but Hunter Biden got to keep the millions, and that was the point. And so on. This kind of thing apparently happened a lot. Again, there seems to be a story here, and we think it's probably worth learning a lot more about it and bringing it to you. In the coming weeks, we will. In the meantime, though, the question is, what can we learn from Hunter Biden's plea deal today? First off, the obvious. For the children of the people in charge, there are no penalties. There are only upsides. They're princelings. They can do what they want. You are not. Therefore, you can't. So don't get any ideas about cheating on your taxes or violating federal gun laws unless you want to celebrate next year's Father's Day through the glass in the visitor's room. The rules definitely apply to you, including rules you don't yet know exist. But there is also a deeper lesson here, a more disturbing one. What we're watching through Hunter Biden's life and through the Biden administration, now entering its 3rd year, is the total inversion of virtue. What was once considered admirable is now derided as stupid, if not racist. That would include achievement, intelligence, honesty, self-control, humility. Those are features of the old America. Those were yesterday's virtues. They are gone. In their place, all that we once considered contemptible and repulsive, we're told to worship that now. Here's a small example, but we think a revealing one. In addition to his many other sins, Joe Biden has hired what has to be the single dumbest, nastiest, most dishonest, most ridiculous person he could possibly find for the very public position of White House press secretary. There's a point to it, of course. It was a humiliation exercise. It was designed to degrade the country and dispirit the rest of us. That's the White House press secretary? Shut up! But here's the thing. The White House press secretary herself has no idea why she's in the job. She thinks she's amazing. Here she is in a clip we just saw.
A year in this role, there's been a couple of things that has made me incredibly proud. Many things that made me incredibly proud to be at that podium during this historic moment. Again, this is a historic administration. I'm a historic figure, and I certainly walk in history every day.
I'm a historic figure? Imagine saying that. I'm a historic figure, but she does. And she says it in a burst of sincere self-congratulation, marked by her signature bad grammar. Illiterate, but proud. Of course she's proud. Karine Jean-Pierre is now a historic figure, just like Hunter Biden is now an important artist. It makes you feel stupid for going to work.
Younger people say the news is full of lies.
In Kennedy's motorcade.
239 people.
You know, it's so sad that our country is, as we just heard on that little bite, that there's two sets of rules, two sets of standards, two tiers for which to live. Those that are definitely privileged politically, whatever it is, governmentally, bureaucratically, you pick the word. But for some reason, this nation is not together. We should be able to stand together and say that man has violated laws and should be, quote unquote, dealt with just like you or myself. And yet it's not happening. Something else that's not happening, I've been wanting to say is we've got, and I touched on it a little bit last week, we all know about the 37 indictments against Trump, the whole 9 yards and stuff like that. But, you know, let's take a little walk back into history here. And what am I wanting to do here? This is how wrong we have been. All of us have been. This is how wrong we've been. It's sad to say this, but you know, when you look back at, for instance, COVID-19 and what it did to our country, it's just amazing. But the headline on Blaze Media reads, "The Echo Health Alliance subcontractor among COVID-19 patients zero at Wuhan lab report." What is this about? Well, apparently there's a damning new report that indicates Peter Daszak's Echo Health Alliance, the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, under Anthony Fauci, and the Chinese military co-opted, the Wuhan Institute of Virology, all have their fingerprints on research that may have ultimately resulted in the deaths of 1.1 million Americans and well over 6.9 million worldwide. Federal documents recently obtained as the result from a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit revealed that the NIAID and the United States Agency for International Development funded an Eco Health Alliance subcontractor's work on the coronaviruses in a tune of $41 million. That subcontractor listed as an investigator on the grants was Ben Hu. From the Blaze, previously noted, was the Wuhan Institute of Virology, the lead on a gain-of-function research on the SARS-like coronaviruses, and among the patients, zero, having been one of the 3 lab researchers first infected with the COVID-19 in November of 2019. Elena Chan, a molecular biologist at the Broad Institute of MIT and Harvard, said Ben Hu is essentially the next Xi Jinping. He was her star pupil. He had been making chimeric SARS-like viruses and testing these humanized mice. If I had to guess who would be doing the risky virus research and most at risk of getting accidentally infected, it would be him. The White Coat Waste Program has wasted federal accounting records through the 2001 FOIA lawsuit against the NIH that confirms that Ben-Hur had his name on American taxpayer granted funded grants awarded by then Fauci, who led again the NIAID and the USAID. According to the grant form, an Eco Health Administrator grant of $3+ million was marked pending for a project titled Understanding the Risk of Bat Corona Emergence. For work to be mistaken from June 19th through May 24th. The same project had previously received $3 million in taxpayer money from the NIAID between June 14th and May the 19th. You see, folks, they were creating a man-made, in a laboratory, virus in hopes, supposedly, and I do believe for the better part that's what they would want to do, of being able to create a vaccine for it. But they lied to us. They deceived us. This goes on to say that the grant form further indicated that the USAID had poured $38 million into Eco Health Alliance project called Predict 2 between October 14 and September 19, again with Hughes' name on it. A USAID spokesman told the Wall Street Journal that the funding for the research at the Wuhan lab ended in 2019 and was part of the agency's mission to identify and contain pandemic threats. The project provided about $800,000 to the Wuhan Institute of Virology and $39,000 to Wuhan University. Notice, we're following money now. We're seeing where money's going. The White Coat Waste Project noted that Hughes animal experiments were being bankrolled with U.S. taxpayers' funds from the NIAID and the USAID grants that received over $41 million, but that the total amount injected into Hughes' lab has not yet been disclosed by the U.S. government. Probably just a pittance, while the rest, of course, went into the bureaucrats' pockets. Fauci, top dog. My speculation. That's where I would see it going. Paying off people. The agency's stalwalling and reporting loopholes made it incredibly challenging to follow the money from government agencies to the Wuhan lab, but the documents make it clear that U.S. taxpayer money funded some of Hughes' experiments. This was spoken by Anthony Bellotti, president of the WCW, who told that to the Wall Street Journal. The Wall Street Journal reported that much of Hughes' research focused on modifying coronaviruses so they could bind them to human cells. It's kind of sick. They want to create this to go to human cells. The stated purpose of the research was to identify viruses that could lead to a pandemic and facilitate the development of a vaccine. What I just now said, let's come up with a vaccine for it. The WCW surmised its findings thusly. The U.S. taxpayer-funded Wuhan whitecoats collect wild coronaviruses from bats in remote caves in China without adequate protective gear, transport the viruses to a lab in a major metropolitan area, and they do a gain-of-function animal experimentations to make the viruses more contagious and deadly to humans, and then fall ill with COVID-like symptoms, and their identities and medical histories are covered up. Now, there was a wonderful piece here. I wish I could show it to you, but I'm not going to. It's basically showing the actual facts on government documents. But the investigative reporter, Paul Thatcher, noted that Fauci denied ever funding this research. Fauci told Congress in May of 2021 that the NIH has never and does not now fund gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute of Virology, and made several similar denials on multiple other occasions. Of course he didn't. He gave the money to Ben Hugh. He funneled the money through other people, through other departments. Then Principal Deputy Director of the NIH, Lawrence A. Tabak, appeared to undercut Fauci's denial, writing to Republican James Comer, a Republican out of Kentucky, on October 21 that the EcoHealth limited experiment in Wuhan tested whether spike proteins from naturally occurring bat coronaviruses circulating in China were capable of binding to the human ACE2 receptor in a mouse model. These mice became sicker, according to Tabak, who added EcoHealth failed to report this finding right away, as was required by the terms of the grant. According to a January report from the HHS Office of the Inspector General, the NIH also knew about the potential risks associated with the research being performed in China that has been executed using federal grant money funneled to and through the EcoHealth Alliance. Despite this knowledge, it reportedly did not effectively monitor or take timely action to address EcoHealth's compliance with some requirements. A British zoologist, Peter Daszak, the head of EcoHealth Alliance, previously called NIH requests that U.S. federal officials inspect the WIV heinous and derided suggestions that the virus might have leaked from the WIV as conspiracy theories. Hugh did not respond to requests for comment from the Wall Street Journal, as Daszak and the NIH similarly declined to provide comment to Thacker. You know, folks, what they're doing is they're playing the shell game. They're moving it all around. They're making it, wow, I don't know. I'm having all kinds of problems here, it looks like. I don't know. On the internet, I've been noticing a lot of things pop up. We know what happened. This was a planned pandemic, and there is going to be more. They're going to have to do it. That's their best way they know how to control people, is through health, especially. If we can create something and then act on it as they have, we're in a bad way, folks. We've got to be able to be better critical thinkers. So that would be pretty much what I wanted to cover for the moment. So if you've been paying attention to the news as of lately, Special Counsel John Durham sat in front of the Capitol Hill today, believe it or not, for 5 hours. There was no Russian collusion that our president, number 45, Donald J. Trump, was involved in. They are also right now getting ready to vote to censor Adam Shifty Schiff, who has been pushing the Russian collusion hoax this whole time, and to this day he still does. He says he will consider the censorship of himself to be as a badge of honor. That's a disservice to the American people of whom he serves. That's an embarrassment, and it's wrong. Personally, he should be removed. Lying to the American people all these years, deceitfully, knowingly, we now have pretty much all the proof. We're not conspiracy theorists when it comes to Hillary hammering Blackberries. 30,000 emails disappeared. What happened over in Benghazi? This whole situation of the Russian hoax, right from the within the campaign of Donald Trump. I mean, the list is long, and that's just with. We're not stupid people. We're not foolish people. We know what's going on. And have to tell you, it got it pretty heated up there on the Capitol Hill. I watched about maybe 2 hours of it. I wanted to watch all of it, but I had a lot of phone calls to make. But I looked at that warthog, Jerry Nadler, and I listened to that. I believe her name is Jackson Lee, something, that woman. They're hateful. They're absolutely hateful people. There's no substance to anything that they've said. It's an evil narrative that they just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And when's America going to get fed up with it? We don't know. No one knows. No one really truly knows. Moving on. Let's look at our national security right now. We know we have a catastrophic disaster at the border of Texas. Not even going to touch it. Don't need to. If you don't know about it, I don't know. Try to watch a little news somewhere. But seriously speaking, China is now looking at building a military installation on one of the northern tips of Cuba that would be 90 miles from our coast. 90 miles from our coast. A similar thing happened back in the mid-60s, early mid-60s. John F. Kennedy was dealing with the Russians, who were, of course, trying to infiltrate, embolden, empower, what have you, Cuba. And his brother Robert, of course, diffused the whole situation. Pretty much. John took the credit, of course, as president, and rightfully so should. And that's why people like John are placed into positions as such. You know, that's the thing, is to find your position as such. Can't wait to, hopefully I can remember to end the show with this. But seriously, are we comfortable having China 90 miles from Florida? I'm not. Usually I'm a 99.9, but I'm going to tell you 100% not comfortable. 100% not comfortable. Be interesting to know later on. Be interesting to know later on who all thinks that this is a good thing. And of course, maybe who says what we should do about it. We need some answers. We need some big answers. Having been in the Navy myself, I feel for Ocean Gate, I believe it's called. Right now, there's a submersible that's been lost around the Titanic. Frigid waters, darkness, cold, 32 degrees, barely. Everything seems to not be going well right now for this crew of 5, 2 of whom are father and son. And it looks like it's a perilous situation. All we can do is hope. It's a large area they're trying to cover. They're hearing noises. And with the best equipment in the world, we're trying to decipher those noises. They're trying to decipher what those noises may be coming from, or so on and so forth. Could be everything from a whales, vocal sounds all the way down to machines around the area working. It's quite a bad situation. So we've got to keep those people in our prayers. And last but not least, Riley Gaynor. This young woman sat in front of Congress today as well. In a way, I'm kind of glad there's not many viewers on here. In a way, but she's talking about the unfairness of biological men dancing and prancing, acting and behaving, showing their feelings of gender dysphoria, a mental disorder, and wanting to compete in sports against women. Folks, I'm not a biologist. Many of you aren't. Just listen to another lady today on the news. She sees and identifies with many different genders. And she's one of our politicians. Man, woman, that's it. That's it. You can prance as one, you can prance as that's it. It's a man and a woman. And those that want to think differently and want to have sex changes when you're 18, you should be allowed to do that. Those that are below 18, no. Your body is a temple that should be kept as innocent as possible. Innocent as possible. To any kind of stupidity of drugs that don't belong in your system as you're growing into and you're morphosizing into your human being person. I'm sure, I know I did, played with dolls, usually my sisters. I patty caked with them. My one sister tried to even teach me, I think it was called croqueting or something. That never really interested me. But never once did I ever say to them, hey, I want you guys to go on the other side and I'm playing tackle football and we're going to, mow you over. I can't do it. You just can't do it. So the answer to the trans community is really simple. Play only with the tranny that you're playing against. We have boys sports, girls sports, men's sports, women's sports, men's Olympics, women's Olympics, Special Olympics, tranny Olympics. Come on. Think about it. Is it that hard of a concept? I sure should hope not. So now I'm going to close with something that's been bothering me. I just got dealt with a situation not long ago with a homeowners association. Many friends of mine warned me. I hang my head in shame. I should have thought twice. When you are not allowed to face an accuser and you're facing a bunch of board members and you've been living in a place for about 5 years, no incidences at all, I would think a warning ticket would be a fair thing. But it's all about the money. When you have a CCW and you live in a sanctuary Second Amendment state like Missouri, and you open carry with your sidearm in your holster, even with this little sign that they have it off to nowhere, that you're supposed to see the signs. I don't live my life seeing signs. I live my life with reality. That's all I can say about that. But to be fined, and I even made a sweetheart deal with them. I gave them a sweetheart deal. Said if I do it a second time, instead of paying $500 for the first, I will do $1,500 on the second time walking in. If you see my gun. Knows what I just said. Just can't open carry it in there. Got to conceal and carry it. That's the way it rolls. But folks, do you need to be living in a college, for instance? So many of them across the nation right now, where they have snitching, ratting out. Some cases they like to politely call it whistleblowing. I've been a whistleblower. When it comes to the environment, I won't think twice. 3 times in my lifetime. Had to. It was the right thing to do. But snitch? Rat on your buddy? Rat on your girlfriend? I'll give you an example. There's a bunch of guys that are looking through a window and seeing a bunch of girls playing volleyball. The girls don't have the most athletic shapes, nor do they have the agility or the coordination to really play great volleyball, but they're having fun. And some guy makes a comment that may not be complimentary. If I hear that comment, I could go to the school student body, tell them I heard James over there make this nasty comment. He gets called into a hearing. He doesn't get to even talk to me. He doesn't even know who ratted him out. It's pitting neighbor against neighbor, students against students. Where has the sense of humor gone in this community? Where? That is what we are lacking probably more than anything, is a sense of humor. Jokes are now considered, I guess, offensive. Rob Snyder, he's a comedian. He's a funny little guy. I've watched him a time or two, seen him a couple movies. He's been kind of all the hit this week because he's saying it like it is. No man can ever be pregnant. If you're a woman who thinks you're a man, then you're a woman who thinks you're a man through gender dysphoria, who's pregnant and going to give birth to a child because you are anatomically and biologically a woman, although you think perhaps that you're a man. These are lies. These are deceitful. It's not only deceitful to themselves, but to others around them. And I call balls and strikes. I have to. That's kind of the way I've always rolled. You know, he who, let me go there on this one. He who dares not offend cannot be honest. Thomas Paine. He who dares not offend cannot be honest. Thomas Paine. And I've got to tell you, personally, I don't mean to offend. That's what the dare is. You don't really mean to, but you do. It's an honest statement for the moment. So again, you have these self-righteous people that sit on these boards, even in the Homeowners Association. I had a buddy of mine that we were talking, and he said a guy got in trouble for having the American flag on his property. Another one I just read recently, believe it or not, was where you weren't allowed to have video cameras to protect your property on your house. So apparently one of the neighbors thought that the other neighbor was going to be, I guess, spying on them. So they took the video cameras down and then they put them on posts. They haven't been told to take them down yet. There's more than one way of skinning a cat. You got to protect yourself. And that's what these people were probably most likely doing, want to just protect their property. Cover their keister, as I say. Or the art of the deal of covering your keister, as Donald Trump would probably say. Nah, he'd probably just come out and say ass. Oopsie daisy. But seriously, we have a country that's divided. It's in our schools. It's in our Parent Teachers Association meetings. It's with our parents not going to the PTAs or the school board meetings, just so self-absorbed in their world, thinking everything is just fine. And we see some major problems right now. We know there are some major problems right now, and they're beginning to open up. They're beginning to almost blossom. You can almost say that we're in a time period right now where the crack that's between us is beginning to actually have some flowers growing in it. So maybe that is the hope. Maybe we have to look at this as part of a sidewalk, and it's got a major fracture right in the flipping middle of it. And on one side, we've got dirt and trash built up on it, whole 9 yards. And on the other side, we've got it fairly clean. And right in the middle, we've got all kinds of crap in it. Broken glass, stones, you name it. But maybe there might be some flowers that might bloom through that crack. We've got to come together. We've got to find common ground. This nation is not a stupid nation. It's a selfish nation where I feel like we're pretty parasitic ourselves. And by that, I mean sometimes who really needs X amount of vehicles being a single person? Do you really need 3 vehicles or 4 vehicles? No. No, you should be able to get by with 2. One as a backup, no doubt. But seriously, we have to look at ourselves. And we've got to look at our neighbor next door. Let's reach out, see what we can do to help them. Because every little act of kindness that's moved from one direction or another, be it the backyard to the neighbor in the back or the front yard to the neighbor across the street, or as I said, side to side, it can grow. Friendships can grow. And that's what we have to do as a nation, is get to our fundamental communities and grow together. Not stand and sit in judgment of someone and say, you know what? Yeah, first time, give him a pass. Yeah, what the heck? You know what? I like his idea. Kind of seems like an arrogant kind of guy. I'll probably goof up just the same, so why not? Take the gamble. He obviously isn't going to do anything nefarious with it. He hasn't yet. I have no intentions on. No one should be thinking like that. But seriously, we're pitting neighbor against neighbor, students against students, kids against kids, races against races. When is it going to stop? I think I gave an answer as to how to make that happen in a more positive direction. Let's see if we can make that multiplication happen. Do something kind for your neighbor. Hopefully they'll do something kind for their neighbor, and so on and so forth. It's been a great evening. All I do know is I have a buddy of mine that lives in a homeowners association, believe it or not. And this cat, I just love it. This cat here, he has to tell them what color he's going to paint his house. They can either approve it or not. By the way, it's a cookie cutter place down in the Lee Summit area. All the houses, kind of every third, fourth house looks the same. They're just maybe reversed. But yet they ask what color? Really, should you have to ask what color? Well, I guess some people can pretty much put some ugly colors on stuff, but I don't know. It's too sterile. way too sterile for me. So we have to open our hearts, open our minds, come up with some good solutions. Watch what's going on, folks. We're a nation in decline. We're going to have to start realizing the most important thing we can do as a citizen, a good citizen, a legal good citizen, a legal good citizen who's called an American can do is vote. By the way, am I kind across the board to Democrats? I'm not going to lie, no. But then again, I can't seem to find any of them that would want to come on the show and have a conversation. I can't find one. And no, it's not that I want to convert them or change them, or I want to learn. I want to see what they know that I'm missing for the future of our nation. We're in very, very, very dark times. I'm very blessed in many ways. We all have curses around us as well. Got a couple curses going on. But seriously, we've got to do this together. Realize that. Maybe we'll get it right. In the meantime, voraciously from the bottom of my heart, thank you for being around. Very quiet show. I like that. Hopefully it's the weather. Maybe you'll check it out later and send me all kinds of little likes and stuff. In the meantime, take care. God bless.
The song is for all Americans. I just wrote this last night. Well, some say I'm trouble, some say I'm extreme. 'Cause I love this country and the American dream. And I'll let no politician tell me what to do. Yeah, I was raised country with work on my hands. Well, you respect your neighbor and you respect the land. And I'll let no president tell me what to do. 'Cause my blood runs red, white, and blue. Yeah, my blood runs red, white, and blue. Yeah, Daddy taught me right from wrong. When to be humble and when to be strong. And I'll fight for freedom if that's what I must do. 'Cause my blood runs red, white, and blue. Now Papa's passed while I was off to war. And this country's changing, it ain't the same anymore. But I'll fight for freedom, yes, I'll fight for you. 'Cause my blood runs red, white, and blue. Hope you like it. Keep the faith, brothers. Stand strong. Fight for freedom.